Hello and welcome along to the podcast today. We have Efe Ohwofasa, who is an expert public speaker, and he's recently been speaking about relationships and how important it is to communicate and in keeping a relationship positive. So, first of all, hello, Efe, welcome along.
Thank you, Martin. Good to meet you again. How have you been?
Very well here, and the podcast is going from strength to strength. Many thanks for your contributions over the months. It's amazing. The response has been fantastic. Email lists are growing and we're helping more people.
Yeah.
So, first of all, why would you want to be interested in relationships and how important it is in communication and in keeping a relationship positive?
It's important. First of all, relationship is this all about marriage. If you're married and your partner, your spouse, your wife and husband. And as at this time on this podcast this year, 2024, I'm so grateful. I've been married to my wife for about 15 years now. And we have 3 children. And in this many years, I would say we've had different experiences in our marriage. And by the virtue of what I do as a coach, I have also interacted and met with different people who are having different issues with their marriage, and I'll be able to assist one way or the other as well. And in my marriage, I've come to see it is very important. I've come to realize that it's very important that both parties, couples, should work at keeping that relationship healthy, positive, and successful. And the benefit is that it leads to being able to personally build your career, build your business. If you have a business, raise a family, a good family, happy family, and all that. On the contrary side, if it's not positive, if the relationship is toxic between you and your partner, there will be sadness, there will be pain, there will be suffering, and which in the long run doesn't make the relationship healthy. So I think it's very important. So there are habits, there are behaviors, there are a way of doing things to make it positive, I may say.
So, what are the key habits then that couples should adopt to maintain a positive and healthy relationship?
I will speak from experience. In my own experience, when I newly got married to my wife, we both from different country, different background, different age, and we had a little bit of challenge at the beginning because we didn't understand it. So, in my experience in being in marriage, one of the positive attitude that someone can display to have a healthy relationship is that marriage or relationship with a partner is not a place where you go to ask for what you want. It's a place where you go to give what you want. You know, the way I learned that was at the early stage of my marriage, I was demanding respect. I was demanding attention from my wife. And as a result of that, it didn't go well. But when I now understand that for me to get the respect of my wife, I have to respect her. For me to get the attention of my wife, I need to give her attention. So when I understood that the principle of giving before receiving first is what will sustain a marriage, that puts me and my wife in a better place. So if you are in a relationship, you are in a marriage, and you want your spouse to love you, you want your spouse to respect you, you want a spouse to spend time with you, you want a spouse, whatever thing you want from a spouse, you first of all make an effort, deliberate effort to give it to your spouse. And as a result of that, it will reciprocate. It will create the positive environment whereby your spouse will want to give it back to you the way you give to her. And that become both of you now making an effort to put in something to make it work. That's one of the principles I think that is very important.
Yeah, I'm pleased that you shared your personal story there, things that have happened in your own life. And because of that, you're able to help others. So, how can couples balance the demands of life, that's work, kids, personal goals, while keeping their connection strong?
I think it's very important that couples work on their communication skill. Communication in the sense that being able to freely express yourself, being able to communicate anything you have as a concern or whatever you're not pleased with or you're not happy with your spouse. Communication has been one of our strengths in our marriage. I learned that from my wife specifically. My wife, she's somebody who is very good at when things go wrong, when we argue, or if we do argue about anything that normally come in a marriage. My wife is very good at very quickly coming to me and say, let's talk. And she expressed how she felt. And if she's at fault, she apologized. And I learned that from her. I picked that from her. It took a little bit of a while. And communication has been one of our source of strength, or if I use the word secret, in sustaining us up to where we are today in our marriage. So communication is the sense that you don't go and condemn your spouse. You don't go and judge your spouse. You just want to communicate. The communication has to do with expressing how you feel, addressing the issue the way it is. And when you are at fault, you say, I am sorry. You accept your fault. And one thing I've come to realize, anytime I personally do not accept my mistake, I don't accept that I was wrong, it brings conflicts and bring quarrel. But anytime so over the years, I have to develop myself that I need to accept and take the ego out and accept my faults and make ways work. So communication and accepting things the way they are, if couples can develop that habit, is something that will really help strengthen a positive relationship with your spouse.
So it's interesting then that it's mainly when marriages begin to get a bit shaky, it could be just lack of communication. But what do you think is the most underrated aspect of relationship building that people often overlook?
What I would say, there are many, but one I would say is that not putting your spouse or your partner first.
Mhm.
Because sometimes, no, we human beings, we are selfish in our thinking. We always think about ourselves first. So we put ourselves first above everyone else. And when couples are not mindful of that you don't have to put yourself first, but your partner's first, you look out for your partner's interest, that will go a long way to really save the marriage or save the relationship. So what do I mean by that? Sometimes when you put your partners first, you're expressing love in a different way that, oh, I don't want to hurt my partner. I don't want to make my partner to go through pain. So you make sure you do things, you put the interest of your partner first. Because if all you are thinking and doing and making decisions based on what is convenient to you or for you most of the time, you will hurt your partner, you will hurt your spouse. So putting your partner first is a principle that I've learned over the years that has helped me to overcome any challenge or thing that may come in my relationship with you. So learn to put your partners first, learn to look out for your partner's interests, learn to be patient and communicate in the interest of your partner. At some point, your partner will know that you care, you love, and they want to do it the way you're doing it back to them.
So, can I ask a couple of questions on the, say, conflict resolution? In the moments of tension or disagreement, what strategies do you recommend for calming down and approaching the issue constructively?
Tension and disagreements, they vary, they come in different ways. I think one of the ways is that don't act or make decision when you are angry with your partners.
Uh-huh.
When you are in disagreement with your partner, don't make any rash decision. Don't make any decision that, oh, this is what it is, and later on you will regret it. It's just to develop your mindset, develop yourself that I am in this to make things work. It's a mindset. I am in this to make this thing work between myself and my partners. So one of the ways to rest for conflict resolution is don't be judgmental. Don't make a rational decision when you are angry or with your spouse when things happen. Say things the way they are. Make decision from a place of reality and be willing to amend yourself, to amend to things the way it ought to be.
So, how can couples then avoid common communication pitfalls like passive aggressiveness or emotional shutdown?
All those are habits,
Mhm.
and they are all habits. Is when you have the willingness to make things work out for you. One of the ways is that you have to be able to listen to your spouse. Because sometimes when things happen out of ignorance or out of stupidity, for me to use that word, people don't want to be submissive to the spouse, or they don't want to be submissive to accept their own fault, to accept their mistakes, and do it and face it in reality the way it is. So the truth is that you just have to see it the way it is and address it the best possible way you can, and with the willingness that you want to make this work for you, work for both of you.
Right. So that let's look at the positivity and growth of a marriage or a partnership. How important is celebrating those small wins in a relationship, and how can couples do this more intentionally?
Very important to celebrate the small wins. It's very important that couples should make an effort to put a little bit of spice in their marriage, in their relationship. Like for me, I've learned a lot from my wife in our relationship. I'm the kind of guy, when I'm working, I'm soaked out on my work where we are both busy. And being the typical African Nigerian man, I live in England now. I met my wife here in the UK. We got married, so we're kind of the English culture here. There is this thing one of my wife love language is let's go out for coffee, let's go out for a walk, let's go out for a walk. Initially, it didn't make any sense to me, but when I realized, oh, that is my wife language, my wife love language. So over the period of time, and I've developed habit. My wife wanted to let's go for coffee. Tell me, let's go for coffee. So it's an habit I've now developed. We could just say, okay, are you working? Are you free? What are you doing? This day, are you doing it? We just go for coffee. We just go there. We can just be on the coffee there. We drink coffee. We talk about things, and it's something that she likes. I am still growing into that to make it a regular habit. So it's just about really understanding your spouse, understanding their love language, and actually making your love language work for them. Like my wife, one of her love language is she likes flowers. She likes being bought flowers. And again, being an African man, a typical African Nigerian man, initially at the very stage, me buying flower for my wife. Really? What does it mean? And after a couple of days, the flower would die off. But I remember the very first day I bought flower for my wife many years ago. I went to ask them. I bought flowers. It's not something I did with joy. I hid the flower somewhere and I got home. I brought it out. I said, honey, I bought you the flowers. And I can see the expression, the excitement with my wife. So every now and again, I do buy my wife flowers. It's not a thing that I do with pride, but I could improve on that because she wanted flowers most of the time anyway. No, so in essence, Jacobus is to understand your spouse love language and make it your responsibility to give your spouse to make it known the love language, and that will bring a lot of positivity and growth and in the marriage, which will bring about intimacy. Don't ignore your spouse love language.
Yeah, I must admit, when I give my wife flowers, the first thing she does is stare at me and say, "What have you done wrong? What do you want forgiveness for?" And yeah, it's true. I used to say, I'm going out for a walk. And she'd say, "Can I come with you?" And I said, "What's the point? It's my time of thinking. I go out and refresh my business mind or whatever." But of course, that was her way of saying, we can get out. And while we're walking, we're talking. And we
Yeah.
talk about all sorts of things that you don't talk about when you're sat in the armchair at home. If ever that situation arises, it is understanding. So, staying on the positivity and growth subject for one more, how can couples ensure that they are growing together rather than drifting apart?
First of all, they should decide they want to grow together, and they both should put in an effort to make it work. And also, they should celebrate themselves with the little things that is working well, because sometimes life could be very busy, career or business could get in the way. And if at all they have children like we do, the children can get in the way. So a partner should prioritize themselves in a marriage. Don't be too busy with work, with business, with career. Don't be too carried away with paying attention, should I not paying attention to yourselves in a marriage. So work it out. plan special time for yourself. Like my wife is very good at that. She initiates ideas, and I just learn how to flow with it. All right. So prioritize your marriage, prioritize your me time with your spouse, prioritize your partner. Don't get too lost in the life business. I celebrate little wins, create some surprises, be intentional that I want to make this work between me and my spouse. I want to make this relationship or this marriage work. Let it be vision that you want to see happen. When you decide that it's a legacy for you to make sure that this relationship, this marriage work, then you'll be living for that vision. It's not easy, but it's possible. No one is perfect, but someone can make things happen if they commit to making it. For me, I'm still learning. I'm not a perfect man, but I'm learning to be the best man I could be. And one of the things I'm very grateful for, I'm married to my wife who she has this wisdom. She can see things ahead. And one of the things that I've come to realize that in marriage, when a man has an ego and refuse to listen to his wife and refuse to discuss and make decision with his wife, the man is doomed to fail at some point. If you're married to somebody you really love, somebody you really cherish, listen to your spouse. Make decision with your spouse involving it. Otherwise, it will go crazy sometimes in the future.
It's a very fascinating and interesting subject. And to get hold of you, can they write to info@efeohwofasa.com if they'd like a chat?
Yes, if you think you are struggling, you are at the crossroad in your marriage, your relationship with your spouse, you're overwhelmed, you feel you've tried all you could, there's nothing you could do, there is a way out. There's a different way of thinking about it. I may be able to help you with my coaching skills. Send me an email at info@efeohwofasa.com, and my team and myself will reach out to you to schedule a session with you.
So one more question, because you teach from the stage more often than not. So how do the skills that you teach in public speaking translate to improving communications in personal relationships, especially marriage?
I'm an expert when it comes to coaching. I'm well rooted in being a professional coach. And when we coach people, we have tools that help us to help our client to think in a very different way, to help our clients to find clarity and focus, because people get confused or people fail not only in marriage, in life, is because they have not been able to they've not been taught of how to think about things, how to make decisions that will serve them. So the coaching tools that I use, that we use, are different model that we use to help clients to clarify their thinking so that they can make decision based on what they want, not based on what they fear or are afraid of.
That's excellent. Efe Ohwofasa, as always, thank you very much for the podcast.
Thank you very much, Martin. What an intriguing question.
Bye-bye for now.
All right.